agenda before us. We do have a 6:15 p.m. zoning hearing for amendments 559 and 560, and we'll stop the meeting at that time accordingly. Does anybody have any additions or deletions? Hearing none, then the agenda will stand. First order of business is the sheriff's report. There's nothing on the agenda. Does anybody in the audience have any specific issues directed to the sheriff's representatives? Okay, hearing none, then I'll close that part of the agenda. We'll go to unfinished business. Mrs. Campbell.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution to amend resolution number 15-162 to increase the amount for the additional advertisements in various newspapers for the Planning, Zoning, and Development Director.
I'll move adoption of unfinished business number 1.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
And that's the end of unfinished business.
Okay, we'll go to new business. Mrs. Campbell.
Thank you. I walked in late, so we should have a representative here for the Children's Services Levy. Do we have a representative? Okay. They had called and asked if they could come to this meeting to talk about the levy, so maybe they'll call and try to get on an agenda for the future levy.
Well, just in case they're running late or something, we can
Well,
come back.
we'll
Come back to it.
Okay, and then item number 2 are the false alarms.
Second those. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes. In a point of order, I apologize. Mr. Haas.
Yeah, Trustee Haas. Sorry, Trustee Haas.
Yes, we videotape our meetings and they're online, and he's on his honeymoon right now out of the country, and so, Mr. Haas, we do apologize. It was a planned absence.
He's got no access to email or video or anything.
I'm really sorry, Trustee Haas.
So, and the other thing too, Chief Schneider is at a working fire right now, I was just told, and he will try to make it as he can. Let's go to the fiscal office report. Flex.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first item on the agenda is a request for resolution to authorize the payment of the pending warrants in an amount of $133,384.85.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Second item is a request for a resolution by the board to authorize the regular payroll in an amount not to exceed $220,000.
I submit authority to pay.
I'll second those. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
And Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Fiscal officer number 3 is a request for a resolution by the board to authorize the payment for the following medical claims as provided by All Care.
I'll move authority to pay.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
And Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Fiscal officer number 4 is the investment report.
No. Okay.
Fiscal officer number 5 is a request for a resolution to authorize the following transfers.
Move adoption of fiscal officer report.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
And fiscal officer number 6 is a request for a resolution by the board to authorize a refund as follows for overpayments for emergency medical services as provided by Ohio Billing.
I will submit on fiscal officer number 6.
I will second those. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
That concludes the fiscal officer's portion of the meeting tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Flex. We'll go to administrative report, Mrs. Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. President. The one and only item I have this evening is the meeting notice for the Stark County Township Association, which will be held Thursday, May 21st at our Plain Township Central Fire Station. It's 6:30 dinner with meeting to follow. And our sponsor is the one and only Eric Williams from Pelini Campbell and Williams. And we have chosen to have Fire Chief Don Snyder speak on the life-saving techniques utilizing the Lucas system, especially since we've had such great success with it. He's going to give a hands-on demonstration and then also share some of the stories where they've used it in action and the very positive outcomes that they've had. So if you're interested in attending, please RSVP.
Thank you to our sponsor.
Thank you.
Yes. And that's the end of the administrator report.
Okay, we're going to go to the fire department
Oh,
report.
thank you. I'll do that fire department report.
Thank you, Mrs.
I've always wanted to be a firefighter, so, let alone the fire chief. So I have one resolution, and that's to extend an offer of employment to Jesse Butler for the position of career firefighter paramedic, probationary contingent upon the successful completion of the township medical physical examination, and be it further resolved to authorize a post-offer pre-employment physical examination for the same.
So moved.
I will second that.
Discussion, the reason for this is because one of the other individuals
Had been offered
somewhere
employment
else.
somewhere else, yeah, and this is just the very first step, is that pre-employment physical. We'll see many other resolutions to follow.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
And Mr. Lino?
Yes.
And then item number 2 is a resolution to authorize reimbursement to Adam Reardon in the amount of $400 for his healthcare membership, according to provision 37 of the collective bargaining agreement.
Would that be 2A?
2A, and 2B is the reimbursement for Michael Hill.
I'm going to move on fire department to 2A, and then move on B, or should we?
Can they do them
You can
together?
move to 2A and B.
Yeah,
That's how we do the
2A
zoning.
and B.
That's fine.
Second those, further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
And Mr. Lino?
Yes.
And that's the end of the fire department report.
Thank you, Mrs. Campbell. We'll go to the road department, Mr. Iacino.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, item number 1 is the list of road material bids that we received from the companies listed.
So move on 1.
That's really
Is this
not.
information?
I'm sorry.
This,
I can't, for some reason, I can't get this up on my computer, so I'm not.
Gravel prices basically stay the same. Limestone went up a little bit, the asphalt prices dropped anywhere from $5 to $9 a ton, depends on what type of asphalt. So the prices did come down,
I look at that.
which is good for our
Yes.
bid.
You feel comfortable with these, Joe?
Yeah, they actually dropped, asphalt prices dropped, and gravel and limestone. Limestone went up a little bit, because we only had one bidder for the gravel states.
That's nice to hear.
Okay, let's go to
Item number 2 is a resolution to award the materials to the following companies as listed below for what they provide.
item of adoption of road number 2.
I will second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Lino?
Yes?
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
Item number 3 is a resolution to authorize payments to those companies and sign the contracts.
I will so move on road 3.
Second, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
Item number 4 is a resolution authorizing the posting of emergency snow route, no parking with snow exceeds 2 inches in all allotment streets, which we discussed earlier. I have listed a list of allotments that we can get started on. We will take it from there, probably have to order more signs as the year goes on. We wanted to get started, and with Mr. Williams' input, that we should at least do a resolution for a lot.
I also move on road 4.
I'll second those.
courtesy letters, you know you're gonna go out there and start digging, you're gonna have some angry man come out there, even though they don't realize that that's our right of way. Are you prepared for that? Should we prepare the residents? Because they're gonna start going up, and it's gonna be, I know there's gonna be some angry residents.
What we need to do is, we have to post the allotments on all entries off the main roads. We do not have to add signs throughout the allotment. So that we actually put on existing posts, like speed limit signs that are posted as we go in. There might be some posts we'll have to add in places, but that is what we need to do.
And that legally hold this, so I know.
Yeah,
So
we'll have them at every entrance, every road that goes in and out, we'll have them posted there conspicuously, that's what the law requires.
Good, and then you won't
Some allotments might take 3, some might take 10, it depends on, how many streets are
So
going
you're
in.
gonna actually use an existing,
A lot of them will use existing
I'm
posts.
going to postpone this real quick. We need to stop to go to the 6:15 hearing for zoning amendment 559, and I will turn that over to Mrs. Campbell. I know. I'll come back with it.
Thank you, yes. I'll talk first about zoning amendment 559. To give the board just a little background, a public hearing was held on April 28, 2015, to consider that amendment. I want to give you a little history here. The homeowners are in the audience this evening, but Michael and Suzanne Kramer at 1391 Elm Creek, they purchased about 20 acres, and it was through an auction with Kiko. And unbeknownst to them, the property had 3 different zoning classifications. It was zoned R1, R2, and I2. On the portion which they wished to build their home, it was zoned I2, so obviously they can't build their home on an I2. So they came before the zoning commission to ask to take all of those classifications and to select one. And they put it in the zoning commission's hand as to which would be the best choice for them. And the zoning commission recommended RR, which is actually the most restrictive classification that we have. So that way they could build their home and then use the additional 15 acres to farm as they wish. And that recommendation was passed by the zoning commission and the Stark County Regional Planning agreed with that. And that's the zoning 559 that you have before you.
Is there anybody in the audience at this time wish to speak in favor of zoning amendment 559? Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Mike Kramer. My wife and I are here this evening. Lisa, you did a fabulous job. I really don't have anything left on my script. I just wanted to open it up, see if you guys had any questions about our intentions for the property, and just, take care of any issues or questions you have.
Well, knowing the area over there pretty well, and, the property immediately to the north, being a property of contention in the past, I mean, you're an applicant is trying to downzone the property, into a larger parcel, and, we've had a few requests for the property behind you to reduce the lot sizes, to a more dense, development. So it's very odd, we don't get these type of requests that often where somebody's trying to revert back to a more restrictive form of zoning. Judging from what the Regional Planning Commission and the hearings and the zoning commissions, your intention is to build a home on a property and then use the other part of the property for agriculture.
Correct.
Any questions?
I don't have anything to add other than I was at the zoning commission meeting, and it was the same kind of deal. They're all over 5 acres anyway. And it's one of the things that we had talked about at length as a board was some of these parcels are actually split parcel zoning, and we had talked about, they were on our list of zoning to clean up anyway. So that, it seemed to be a fit.
Takes one off the list.
Yeah, it seemed to be a fit,
Yeah.
so.
And we don't have further questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak against Amendment 559? Okay, we will close the public hearing for zoning amendment 559. I'll make the following motion. The public hearing was held on April 28, 2015 by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to consider Amendment 559 for the Plain Township zoning resolution, and whereas such hearing was properly and timely held pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 519.12, and whereas the Plain Township Board of Trustees has duly considered the nature of the amendment and the reasons therefore, the recommendations of the Plain Township Zoning Commission and the Stark County Regional Planning Commission, and information provided by any and all interested person. Now therefore be resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to adopt the recommendation of the Plain Township Zoning Commission for approval.
I will second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mr. Lena
Yes.
and Mr. Geovasis.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to public hearing for zoning amendment 560, Mrs. Taylor.
Okay, 560, I'll walk you through your packet. And where I'd like to take you after much discussion with our law director, you have a proposed packet, and then you have one that has red writing through it. So what I'd like to take you through is, one of the first things we're adding is a definition, which is a flea market, which is an outdoor market utilized by one or more vendors for the sale or barter of new or used merchandise. That's something we're actually adding into the book. We've never had flea markets in the book. There's a very real and valid reason why we need to add flea markets. That's on the top, and I'll come back to that flea market section, because where we go to next is Article 4, manufactured or factory-built homes. The update is that, and you'll see crossed out the Stark County Building Department. The Stark County Building Department no longer inspects foundations for manufactured home. So what we're really doing is bringing it up to code by adding the central, changing it to the Central Inspection Bureau, OMHC agency. So we really had the wrong, had to bring that up to code. Many places just say that you need to have an inspection, but I'm more comfortable with our book being a source of information for people to go to also get help. So then number 7 is being changed, where it says a hip gable or gambrel style roof must be installed and approved by the Stark County Building Department, because that is what they inspect, is the roof. So, and then number 8, in the past, we've had some issues with this language, that the structure shall be located on the site so that it is parallel with the street. There's always been arguments about when it says access, so we're taking that out. All right, Article 6 is brand new, it's about flea markets. We do know why that, we're having issues with that. So, again, I want the board to know, it's only allowed in a B1, B2, I1, and I2 district, so obviously no residential neighborhoods. The permit's valid for 30 consecutive days, it's $100, you can renew twice, so it's a total of 90 days. So each location can only have a flea market for 90 days. 8 a.m. until dusk. And you'll see what's important really to the board also is all items have to be in a secured in a tent with collapsible sides, or if open, have to be removed nightly and appropriately stored as per the section. You can't leave anything out. Storage of items for sale shall be within buildings or areas enclosed by walls or solid fences. Storage areas shall be located in the side or rear yard of the site. Container units, trailers, and vehicles are not permitted as storage units. Neither can somebody put it in the middle of a parking lot. Talks about the setbacks, parking requirements, parking spaces. The applicant must include a site plan to scale. If the applicant is not the owner of the property, it has to be signed and notified that they can use that. The rest are, our standard language, but I wanted to read those points because I know that those were concerns that we had. And again, it goes over the permitted neighborhoods. Eric, do you want to talk about anything with the flea markets that you know the book? Okay. So then I want to bring you to just the next section, Article 9. Basically, it is a language cleanup, is all it is, as far as the parking and loading requirements. And yes, so is Article 10 is a language cleanup, and the rest of them are. But the really hard decision that, the last one, when it talks about conditional zoning certificate, it was a language instead of direct. We recommend salt. The hard thing that Eric and I reviewed is we did review the changes from the zoning commission from our proposed text. And for this, because we did have some very specific concerns, and I can turn it over to Eric, we are recommending.
I think what we need to be clear about on the record is that we're recommending adopting the recommendation of the zoning commission for approval with modifications. Those modifications being, we like the changes. We've got like 4 versions of this thing circulating around, so it's confusing. I have one here though that we want to use that is the original verbiage with some of the changes from the zoning commission and some of the changes that we had made originally.
Yes.
And that is what Lisa just went through. So essentially it's got some good input from them that we've made changes on, and it's basically this in my packet. So this is what I'm recommending that and it is an approval from the zoning commission with modifications. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Yeah, okay. So that's, and I'll take this out.
I'll circulate.
Yes.
The
The other ones we're gonna get out of
Those are all
circulation.
drafts. Yeah.
Get them out so that
If
nobody-
you approve this one, and I'm holding it,
Yeah.
if you approve this one, we're gonna get rid of all the other versions. Okay?
Okay.
Nice hard work on that, good job.
All right, is there anybody in the audience here to speak in favor of zoning amendment 560? Anybody here speaking against amendment 560? Okay.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion, whereas the public hearing was held on April 28, 2015 by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to consider amendment number 560, Plain Township zoning resolution, and whereas such hearing properly and timely held pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 519-12, and whereas the Plain Township Board of Trustees has duly considered the nature of the amendment and the reason therefore, recommendation of the Plain Township Zoning Commission, Stark County Regional Planning Commission, and the information provided by all and any of their other interested persons. And therefore, by hereby the Plain Township Board of Trustees of Ohio 2, we are adopting the recommendation of the Plain Township Zoning Commission for approval with modifications.
We'll second those. Any discussion? Again, for the record, most of this is just language cleanup and some modifications to existing language that was said to address some issues that were blaring with our existing language in the township. No further discussion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes. Okay, that will conclude our public hearings. We will go back to road department number 4. If there's any further discussion. Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
Item number 5 is a resolution to authorize the purchase of a new BOMAG vibratory camper from Southeastern Equipment Company, $650.
I'm so moved.
Seconded.
Discussion, just for the record, that is a camper, not a camper. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
Item number 6, after many hours and miles driving their township roads after the winter, we put together a proposed paving list of streets. I don't know if the board has received any input from our residents. With the increase that the residents gave us to work with, which is much appreciated, we're almost doubling last year's paving amount.
8 miles to approximately, if all our funds come in. It's dependent on how our funding comes in from the levy. 8 miles to how many approximately?
15.5.
Wow, that's huge.
We're probably looking between 1.3 and 1.4 million with all the aspects of grinding, paving, striping, and everything.
Well, I'll move adoption of the resolution and bring it to the table.
I think there's
But it's not a resolution. This is
It's
just so you guys can look at the streets.
Are we looking at all of these, Joe?
Yes. We're trying to hit every area of the
I was
township
gonna say,
to
you
show.
make sure that we did,
If you look at the section numbers, that's the different areas of the township. So,
let me ask you, Joe, and you're one, I should know that, but when we're doing our paving, we're pretty much doing our best, you're staying on top of it. But when you say we're hitting the air, we calling West End, we hitting?
yes, that's,
So people don't think that we're
we're
showing
going all the way
favoritism.
from Mount Pleasant to, Avenue.
Gotcha.
So,
And I know you've looked at these roads, and I know that if any of these are on, they have to be.
they've been driven and they've been graded.
And one thing I have learned, and we've learned it through, you and I even sat in those classes in Columbus. A lot of times you get a resident upset, why are you doing this road? It's not that bad. We found out that if you allow that road to sit without doing anything on it, now that becomes worse. And then it costs double now because you let those roads go. So if residents see us working on roads that look like maybe to them borderline, you know you're on top of it because those are roads now that will be done and we don't have to worry about spending double or triple the amount. Am I right? Help me, because that's the class that we sat on, it was pretty educational.
Yes, that's been the thing in the past, but I can assure you that I don't think we're gonna get any complaints that we shouldn't pave any of these roads this year after the last 2 winters we've had. And the amount of money we've been able to spend since our cuts.
But you know that has happened. You've had the resident wonder, why are we doing that road?
Oh, yeah.
If it makes sense, we're staying on
We get
top.
just as many of those as we get, why aren't you doing my roads?
Correct.
Well, I mean, the one thing the residents can visualize. First thing they wake up and see it every morning, and the last thing they see usually at the end of the day is our streets. And not to disparage any of the communities around us, but if anybody drives from a neighboring community into the township or leaves the township into a neighboring community, you know right away, because everybody says, where's the township lines? I said, well, just drive far enough, you'll notice it real quickly. Because we do it, the road people, you guys do a fantastic job keeping up on the roads. And I mean, that's evident from the plowing, the paving, the fixing of the potholes, crack sealing. We take every preventative measure in the world to make sure our roads don't get into condition to some of the others that are around us.
We're working at.
And the taxpayers, they just approved our road levy, which is going to enable us to pave more miles of roads
Well,
annually than we have been
And
able
that's
to
the
in the
board
past.
keeping their word, that they said this would go towards, paving equipment, and it's the first year, and you're doubling the miles paved, so.
And just another thing, there are other roads that are just as bad, but especially over in the Avondale area, we have, again, city water is going to be replacing 2.2 miles of water line in that area this year. Actually for the next 3 years in different areas over there. So we're in contact with them, and then when they're done doing everything, we'll go through and, what needs paved, we'll pave. We're not gonna pave, and then, I was actually glad that they contacted us, and they are taking care of our customers' our residents with their water, but there's, you know, those lines are over 100 years old over in the Avondale area, and they're having a lot of trouble with it. So they are replacing them the next 3 years, about 6 miles over there altogether.
Very good, Joe.
Very good.
And item number 6 is a resolution to authorize the advertising for bids for the Plain Township paving road repair project. And the newspaper published in Stark County general circulation on May 7th and May 14th, with the bids to be open on May 21st at 1:30 p.m.
Now, adoption of Road 7?
Was that on 6 or 7, Joe?
7.
Yeah, that's number 7, I'm sorry.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Thank you.
If I may, can I ask a question I have the safe now to ask you? Did we take a big hit on our salt this year?
I talked to the county last week, and it is going up about $4.40 a ton. But at the same time, the bids they got from other suppliers, or the bid we're gonna get is around $55 a ton. The next closest one was $75 a ton, and Morton Salt was $95 a ton. So actually, we got the lowest of the suppliers. I've been in contact with Mr. Flex's office about getting our bin full with last year's prices, and that can be done up till July 1st, I do believe. So we're working on that, so we'll have a full bin of stuff to start the year and save the $4.50 a ton.
No
So, but they are going to go up, so.
Okay,
Thanks, Joe.
let's go to the zoning department, Mrs. Keene. Clear through your hand again.
Yes, thank you. This evening I will be presenting 4 nuisance abatements that you have before you. One I potentially am...
That's when I called on.
Yeah, one potentially will not be an abatement. I'm working with the homeowners. They give me the name of the company that will be towing the cars. I've called the towing company, and they will be indeed towing the vehicles, but I would rather be safe, do it as a nuisance, and then we have the additional time to tow the cars in case anything would fall through. So as we get closer, I'll just keep checking to see if they're there or not. Actually, Joe will keep driving me, or Rob will keep driving me to check, and we'll move from there. So tonight I have nuisance abatements 1A through 1D.
I will so move on zoning 1A through D.
Second those. Any discussion?
Most of them are all vehicles.
Yeah, and I do want to thank Joe and Rob and Sean for driving me around. I think they like to spend the time with me now anyways. They call me driving Miss Daisy. Wait, is that it? No.
Something like that.
Any no further discussion, roll call, please.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah.
Thank you. We go to the clerk's department.
Thank you, gentlemen. Item number 1 is just a resolution to adjust the pay rate for Joe Snyder in the parks, the buildings and facilities part-time employees are related to 79. Lord, I'm having trouble talking tonight. 1079 for his work with parks, road, fire, and including yard waste duties.
Adoption of parks.
I'll second it.
Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 2 is a resolution to hire Mr. Stephen Richards at the hourly rate of $8.10 from the fund below. As a seasonal concessions employee, what we're running into is we have a lot of kids that are currently with us that have proms and some vacations that are conflicting, so the best thing we can do that is to bring on more bodies and kind of shift them where we need them.
I'll so move on parks 2.
Second. Any discussion? None, roll call, please.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 3 is just simply some events updates. May 7th will be the second Safe Kids Day event in Stark County at Schneider Community Park from 4 to 7 with a lot of different partners. It was a great event last year. We had almost 600 kids. We actually expect that to double this year. And last year's was the biggest they had seen to date for a year one. Secondly, 2 days later, also at Schneider Community Park, we'll be holding the first ever food truck roundup on Saturday, May 9th from 2 to 7 p.m. 7 different gourmet food trucks will be out. It's a great atmosphere. We invite all folks to come out and check it out. It's a new trend growing in a lot of bigger markets, so we're the first to have it in Stark County, and we're pretty excited about it. So just come on out and visit us.
Rob, question on it, that's a Saturday, correct?
The first one and the last one will be on a Saturday, May 9th, and then September 5th. And then starting on May 18th, we'll be carrying the first and third Mondays of the month at Schneider Park for the supper market.
First and third.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to do it every other week?
Close to, yes.
Perfect.
And then we have some lacrosse tournaments coming up. So we have a busy May coming.
Nice. Very good.
Well, you keeping up with everything?
Doing our best. Yes, we are. You look at me kind of funny. Yes, we are.
Oh, I know, you're struggling.
It's just, the weather has not been kind, but we work really, really hard. The parks look very good.
Yes, they're doing great.
And we're coming along, and we have our fields at capacity at Diamond. So we are very, very busy, but it's all good news.
Perfect. Keep on that good work.
Thank you. Finally, item number 4 is a resolution to authorize payment in the amount of $4,950 from Fund 01F02 to Pileggi's Asphalt and Artistic Concrete for repairing cracks and seal coat of the Alpine Park walking path, including all walkways, and also reapplying the Alpine parking lot pavement markings.
Yeah, I'll move adoption of Parks number 4.
I will second that.
Any discussion?
Just to bring up, I'm sorry, Trustee Lino, go ahead.
Yeah, you're probably going to answer.
We have had, as Mr. Racine has already alluded to, two very, very rough winters. The parks have seen just as much of that of the roads in certain respects, and the asphalt just needs repairing. There are cracks there that we think need to be repaired, and sealing that we think needs to be done, along with the lines in the parking lot. The parking lines have been kind of softened as time has gone on. It's a much needed project. Did I answer that okay, Mr. Lino?
You did, that's probably what I was going to say.
And we did receive other quotes, they just weren't.
I apologize, thank you. They weren't anywhere close, and this includes the entire scope of the project. So what we'll end up doing once we get a scheduled date, because the sealing and the asphalt has to sit for 24 hours, I would at that time make a recommendation that we close the park just to allow the asphalt to settle and the lines to dry so that we can utilize that as quick as possible.
With that, Joel, Rob, would that be something in the future, unless it's cheaper to do it this way, that because we have so much traffic, so many miles, would that be a piece of equipment someday that we could purchase and do that in-house? That would save us money, or is it better that we're doing it this way?
For as often as we would do it, I think this is the best way for right now. I'm not even sure the cost of a machine to seal that in material, because you're going to need some kind of boiler, you got to get it hot and all that, so I think after what they did up at Diamond and the way it looks, after the 2 tough winters on it, it still looks great.
I would agree with
I think
that.
this will
Okay.
be the same. This one's looking at about 20 years that it's never been sealed. So, I mean, it's held up good. So.
And residents actually thanked us for just even reviewing it.
Yeah, nice.
Further discussion?
No, sir.
Hearing none, roll call please.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
That concludes Parks, thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to communications. Mrs. Campbell.
Thank you. I have one item under communications. It's a letter to Chief Don Snyder and reads, Dear Mr. Don Snyder, in March of 2004, Malone College received a charter for a prestigious National Honor Society for adult students. This society, Alpha Sigma Lambda, is recognized throughout the country as a group of students who are beyond the traditional college age and who have excelled in continuing education programs through scholarships and leadership. Membership is limited to the top 10% of the eligible student body. It is with great pleasure that I write to inform you that one of your employees, Mr. Robert Morton, has recently been selected as a member of this group. Through community leadership and superior academic performance, Robert has exemplified the kind of employee, student, citizen of whom we can be proud. We at Malone University thank you for your support of lifelong learning, and we hope that the work of Robert Morton will continue to bring benefit to your organization and to your community. Sincerely, David A. King. So, very prestigious honor for Robert Morton, our firefighter paramedic. And that's the end of communications, except for my daughter won all her races tonight at the meet. Woohoo! Write that down, Robert. She's at the meets at Jackson.
Which daughter?
Tonight. Daughter Emma Campbell, C-A-M-E-B-B-E-L-L.
Rob, I don't see your pencil.
Sports will cover that.
I saw you drop your pen, so.
Well, make sure you get it to one of the sports guys.
Yes. It's that's why I was kind of testing tonight. I just have to throw that out there.
All right, we're going to go back to our representative from the Children's Services Levy.
Hi.
And we're going to let her come up and introduce herself and make a presentation. And it's crunch time for them, the election being in a week, so I'm sure she's running all over the county trying to garner as much support as she can. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself. And
Hi, I'm Stacy DeChellis, and I work at Children's Services. I'm a supervisor there, and I'm here because we have issue 18 on the ballot on May 5th, and I just wanted to briefly explain what that is, and it is a renewal level for our levy. And it's a 1.4 mil levy. It's just a renewal of that existing levy that lasts for a period of 5 years. And we need this. We are very much dependent on that levy passing for us to operate. The key facts about our levy are that this is not a new tax. There's no new taxes. It's a renewal. It actually provides 40% of our funding for Children's Services. We don't receive any other local funding whatsoever. Again, it's a 1.4 mil renew levy, and that estimates that it's only about $42.75 for each home that's appraised at about $100,000. Again, it's issue 18. It's not any new taxes. I was told to really stress that to everybody. It's a renewal. And if anybody has any questions or comments, I'd be glad to answer those. But again, it's this May 5th, issue 18.
just so the people in the audience that may not understand, could you explain to them exactly what Children's Services covers and what this funding means?
Yes. Again, it's 40% of our funding, so we don't receive any other local funding whatsoever. We do get some state and federal dollars, which we use first, and then we use the levy. Children's Services, we investigate all cases of child abuse and neglect in Stark County. We provide case management services, we provide adoption services, we provide independent living services to those youth who are in foster care and are transitioning out of foster care. So we do a lot of stuff, but we are the only agency in Stark County that investigates child abuse and neglect. No?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to leave just some postcards in the back, and anybody, you're welcome to take one home.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for letting me speak tonight.
And Stacy, I'll see you, Miss Sabina's mom.
Hi.
Yes.
Yes, track is going on right now.
Yes.
That's where we're on it.
Yeah.
He was my handyman last night, but he's at track tonight. So, all right, thanks you guys. I'm going to leave things in the back. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go now to public speaks. If anybody in the audience at this time would like to speak to the board, you may do so at this time. We only ask that you give your full name and address to the fiscal officer, and once he gives you the nod, so he has your full name, you can go ahead and speak. And if anybody does speak, please also sign in the sign-in sheet in the back so we make sure we got the spelling and everything correct.
Good evening, my name is Carlton Jarrett. I reside at 7275 Norridge Avenue, Northeast.
said, where's the street?
Hillridge?
Hillridge?
Yeah, last name, please spell it.
Jarrett, Jarrett.
275.
Yes.
Thank you.
The reason I'm here today is I called about a month ago, I talked to the zoning about having some hens so I can have my own eggs, chickens. I know in Plain Township, it's not authorized. But I'm here to see if we can do something so we can have chickens. I'm not trying to have a business, I'm just trying to eat healthy, and not everything that goes into the food that we can buy at the grocery store. In North Canton, you can have them. You can have up to 6 hens, and you can, a certain square foot pen you can have in. There's certain restrictions and zonings, which is something we could put in on our books. You know, we can maybe mimic theirs. You can hunt in Plain Township in certain areas, but you can't have chickens. I find that kind of odd. Necessarily can't hunt in North Canton City, but you can have chickens. It's kind of backwards. So it's something that we can look into, get this passed so we can have chickens. I have a 10-month-old son. I want to have him eating healthy. I don't want him eating a bunch of junk that we're putting into the foods in the country. So that's why I'm here. I was told to come down, talk to Mr. Hawes. He called me back, and I asked him. The zoning told me to come down here and present it to you guys so you guys can look it over. If we get something drawn up and put it on the books.
Well, I'll be honest with you, I mean, more and more people, more and more communities are allowing this to happen because people are starting not to just to grow their own food, they're raising some of their own food too. Chickens.
City of Canton is also, North
Yes.
Canton, Canton.
So I mean, I think this is something that we should look at, that, you know, first text amendment or something that we can initiate.
Yeah, things that are discussed is, I know North Canton and the City of Canton have, I've talked to them and they've not had issues really. They limit it to 6 hens, no roosters, no slaughtering.
Correct. They also have has to be an enclosed
It has to be an enclosed pen.
50 feet away from a residence, 20 feet away from property lines. All chicken feed must be kept in a rodent-proof container.
And rodent-proof container, right, so it doesn't attract animals. And I know that some concern that has been brought up is the cleanliness of how often you clean them. But, you know, they have to be kept clean. But that could be the same of picking up after, you know, your pets.
Correct.
So I think Mr. Geovasis brings up a good point. I had talked with the board and said we were getting many calls about this issue. Not that people want to sell them, but that they want to just have organic eggs for their home.
Correct.
So,
If anybody's ever had fresh organic eggs, pretty good. I have some friends that from time to time that they'll give us some, so I'm personally in favor of looking at something like that, because
we have the text amendment.
I'm open to it, but I'm not open to it. I'm worried about the smell. I'm worried about someone not taking care of that pen, which, you know.
But in the same regards, if someone doesn't take care of a dog that's outside, it urinates, it has feces all over the yard, you're going to get the same material. And to be honest, I was in the Marine Corps when I drove back from North Carolina all the time. There's turkey farms down there, and chickens don't smell anywhere close to what turkeys smell like. Even in the dead heat, the turkey smells 100 times worse. You can drive around Plain Township and see dogs that are outside all the time, and they're not kept properly, penned up properly, and
Me
clean.
personally, it'd be something I'd like to talk to my law director with. I'd like to talk to other, if this is going to ever happen in Plain, I want to make sure that we're darn sure that this is going to work.
Sure.
See if there's any complaints in other townships and cities for Newburgh. I can't speak for him, but I'd like to make sure it's going to work.
Sure.
And after speaking with my law director, if it all sounds good to me, I'm open, but I'm more cautious than he is right now, I'll be honest with you. Only because I've gotten a lot of calls on pen smelling, and we have to get the health department involved. It's not like this hasn't happened with us, and if it's one more added thing, it's just something we have to worry about. So, yeah, but that's something I wouldn't.
What kind of pens smell
I've
like?
had residents call on.
Chicken pens?
No, not chicken pen. He's talking about dog pens.
Yeah, I think the big issues have been smell related and have been, I don't know, a lot of times it's hard for us to be able to tell whether we're dealing with a legitimate complaint or two people that don't like each
Just
other.
don't like it, right?
And so it'll just be another thing that I think people would use to get in front of us and make complaints
No, I
and these kinds of
understand. I mean,
things.
it's-
But certainly, it sounds like the board is willing to take a step and maybe I'll get that sample legislation we can look over. And
I mean,
you're certainly not the first who's come.
right, when
before
I
us.
called out zoning, they told me I'm not the first.
It's
And
kind of
I
a
talked
hot
to Mr.
button
Hawes,
issue.
he said the same thing. So.
Yeah,
So
so,
I can remember years past, I mean, there's been some people, like, for instance, the gentleman that lived down there at Markdale and Middle Branch,
Yeah.
next to Country Combs.
right.
I mean, this was a guy that didn't pen his chickens up, and I went to have an ice cream cone over there one day, and I had 6 chickens walking around my feet. And they were walking across Middle Branch, and people were slamming on their brakes, and, you know, those kind of issues. I mean, but I think, you know, if we can work out some of the concerns for Al, I'm open to the idea.
Just something we can look in, and if we do it, then our guidelines could be strict, that if we get complaints, we go to the house and there is an odor, then we may have a fine. There has to be something involved, we have to really look into this if we're gonna do it.
Why don't we start with, I'll get the legislation from North Canton.
I have it, I can give
And
it
we
to
can
you. Mhm.
start there, see what they say, see what they're doing, I'll call up their folks, see if they've had problems.
You know, you need to find out the ones that do have them, are they
Right.
living in 5 acres already? I mean, you need to find out, I'd like this.
Yeah, are you in, do you know where how you're zoned?
I do not know.
Are you in like an allotment, are you in a?
Yeah, Laurel Ridge, I guess.
Yes.
Those
Okay.
are all the broke down sign on the corner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those are usually, those are half acre,
Yeah,
larger
larger.
lots.
But I guess for me personally, again, I'm only one trustee, but I would like to see if this is working in communities. Are they smaller homes with smaller allotments? Are they directly next door and people are saying we're okay with it? Or are we talking about all the ones that have them, they're in large
Right.
lots and it doesn't affect us?
Can this
Now,
be
once
some-
you get this in a smaller development and you're only 40 yards from that,
Yeah.
then it's a concern. And if it works, then I'm open to it.
Well, maybe this is something also we can look at, maybe if we can initially,
Home
if
rule.
we do something through home rule, but to limit it to properties over 15,000 square feet.
Which would, what's our, 12,000 is R1 and RR is 15?
No, 15 is R1.
Oh, that's our, we moved that
I'm
up
talking
here.
about the larger lots.
Right, okay.
But,
Maybe if we keep it to a half acre to start and see how it works with that, and, you know, because most of the lots are, you know, in Laurel Ridge are gonna be 15,000 square feet or larger.
But if we do home rule, then we can legislate as far as the smell, and that will probably be the way to go.
Well, just understand, I'm not throwing a wrench in the works, but
Yeah.
when you talk about, it's a lot like a lot of other things we try to legislate, the smell. Now, I gotta go to court and prove it. So,
Look at Lieutenant
that's,
Springer's face.
that's not an easy thing, and these guys gotta go out and write tickets based
Well, I
on it.
guess you would see a filthy chicken coop. You'd see
Not
that,
necessarily,
wouldn't you?
that's all I'm saying, it's not
All right.
I
necessarily.
understand where you're going.
Yeah, so,
Again, trustee Hawes is not here, I'd be anxious to hear his input, he needs a,
Well, let Eric get the draft language,
let's
so
at
let's,
least get it kick-started, and
yeah,
Come to my office after talking.
okay.
it's a touchy
but
subject.
I know there's a lot more people doing it, and everybody's not going to do it, but there's gonna be some that want to.
But this can just,
Yeah.
one, you know.
Sure. Yeah, we'll get it and we'll look at it.
Thank you.
I'm just, you know, thinking the city of Canton, North Canton is doing this without a lot of issues, we should be able to do the same thing. See. Anybody else have any concerns they would like to address the board with? Anybody else? Okay, we're gonna close public speaks. We're gonna go to the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting, April 14, 2015. I will move, so move.
I will second it, but there's only one vote, I wasn't here.
Yeah.
So can you have?
We can do it at the next meeting. No, we can't
Yeah.
pass it. Yeah, so when you brought it to the table, you need to vote, and you need to put for one vote, and then it won't carry, and we'll do it at the next meeting. I'm sorry to be technical, I didn't see that
No,
ahead of time.
that's
We'll just
okay.
table it.
You do that
I'll
too?
withdraw my motion and we'll table it.
Okay.
Let's go to the approval of the minutes of the special meeting of April 22nd, 2015.
That one I was here, so I will second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mr. Leo
Yes.
and Mr. Geovasis.
Yes. There is a need for executive session? Or is this from the work session?
No, there is.
There is.
Okay, there is a need for executive session. Be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to adjourn the executive session at 6:59 PM from this regular meeting of April 28, 2015, as authorized under Ohio Revised Code Section 1.62G for short consideration of
What?
1A,
Boss, you guys can bring out another one Sunday at Flying Pig.
Well, we gotta.
employment of a public employer official.
How much?